Thank you very much for joining me. I'm meteorologist Brian Shields. Thank you for being part of this weather community. All right, a couple things going on here. This, by the way, Tropical Storm John looking more like a hurricane about to roll into Mexico. And this grabbing headlines, of course, overnight. I've been tracking some of the rain with you in the comments across parts of Jamaica. As expected, some spots dry, others getting dumped on with rain. This is that developing area which could become a major hurricane in just a couple of days, about 2 to 3 days. This is going to quickly evolve, and this could bring us those tropical storm conditions right into the Cayman Islands, even trying to clip by western Cuba. We're going to see a high impact event as far as the rain is concerned, and then down the road, the wind and the rain. So this is my most likely path based on what I am seeing with this, and I gave this to you yesterday as well. I made some subtle trends, a little bit of a jog to the east. What I've been seeing with this is things kind of hinting a little more to the east, but as we work our way into tomorrow, this will either be a tropical storm over the Cayman Islands or very close to it. So what I mentioned yesterday, Cayman Islands, again, we're going to have some tropical storm conditions around for about a day before this lifts to the north, and then it will move into the Gulf of Mexico with winds around 65 miles per hour, 80 after that by Thursday morning, and may rapidly intensify. It's not out of the question that winds in this could be as high as 120, 130, just depending on how quickly it is able to rapidly intensify, unfortunately, and then making landfall near the Big Bend of Florida by Thursday night. Could it come on in sooner to the west coast of Florida? Yes. Or the panhandle of Florida? Yes, it can. It's still developing. I need to really see where the center is first to know where it's going to go. Once I see a center, then I'll know where it's going to go. It's easier to track a system that's already developed, and this one has not been developed. Now, I don't just look at the models. The models yesterday were a little bit over here. They're now over here. My forecast track takes it more to the Big Bend eventually, just because I've been seeing this front that's back to the west that will help steer it a little bit more to the east. But either way, give or take. I mentioned a wide area, the landfall point down the road. Uncertain. The certainty is the heavier rain in parts of Jamaica. And the tropical storm conditions across the Cayman Islands and clipping by western Cuba in the extreme northeastern sections of Mexico. Now, going out in time, showed you those squiggly lines. Well, how strong will it get? This is 12 hours out in time, 24 hours, so a day, 2 days, 3 days. I know this map's a little weird, but these are those computer models I showed you. And it shows just 12 hours out in time. A lot of the computers are saying, hey, this is going to be a tropical storm. And that's why I was mentioning the tropical storm conditions are likely across the Cayman Islands. 24 hours out, almost everything has this as a tropical storm. And then some of the models have this as a Category 2, potentially Category 3 hurricane. And we're talking winds, as I mentioned, could be 120, upwards of 130, depending on how quickly this area eventually strengthens to the north. It's going now where it goes. It's going to really depend on the time of this front. This front moves in quickly. This could swing this back toward western Cuba, right into the peninsula of Florida. If the front is slower, this could drive it more to the north, to the panhandle of Florida. And my forecast track is somewhere right in between right now. The American and German, the German, American, European, and Canadian models all have this becoming a hurricane. Now, in the short term, biggest concern is the flooding. And as I mentioned, some spots are going to get it, some spots are not. We're going to watch out for the flooding, the mudslide potential for this over the next couple days. As I showed you yesterday, most of this will be to the east of Belize and just to the north of Honduras, but Providencia over towards San Andres, some of the heavier weather up toward Jamaica, Cayman Islands, western Cuba, northeastern sections of Mexico for the areas of heavy rain at times. You may get it nearby and then just not far away, nothing at all. That's how it is with the developing system. But in the Cayman Islands, we are going to get it. Flooding is imminent. We're going to see a lot of rain starting tonight for some of us, then more so tomorrow, and then tropical storm conditions. Of course, we've had worse with hurricanes. This will be most likely either a tropical storm or close to it. Winds could be around 50 miles per hour, 80 kilometers an hour, and the rain, that is going to be the big issue. At least 6 inches of rain or 150 millimeters of rain. It could be higher with those just constant downpours by tonight and more so by tomorrow as this evolves. So giving you the heads up in the Cayman Islands, we're going to have some flooding. The winds are going to be gusty at times, especially tomorrow. A tropical storm is going to be moving in, really developing on top of us. Now you see it here, and I'll zoom down into the Caribbean in a moment. Let me start wide, and you see the bands of rain starting to work in. This is today and then tonight into tomorrow, developing tropical storm. Cayman Cayman Islands, just getting very close to Cancun. Worst weather would be still just offshore. And then watching western Cuba here. This here is by Wednesday. By Wednesday, it emerges into the Gulf of Mexico. Very warm water temperatures, low wind shear, which just simply means conditions are conducive for strengthening. It will be developing into a hurricane on Wednesday. Then by Thursday, it will really be intensifying. It will be a hurricane at that point, and it could eventually get close to major hurricane status. And then this model, the American model, has a pull up toward the Big Bend. The American model has been great. The European model has been so terrible. It had it over toward the Western Caribbean. But then you can see this quickly moving in. It will quickly move up, potentially into Georgia and South Carolina. Could see some high impacts in Georgia too. With a tropical storm. It will go from hurricane to tropical storm once it moves in. And still those feeder bands kind of stretching in. Just a big tropical flow. On the flip side of it, I mentioned John. I'll get to John in just a second over toward Mexico. Very high rain totals. I'll get to Mexico in just a second and just how close that area gets to Guatemala. Here's this spot though. Now you have the winds here, kilometers an hour and miles per hour. So it started, of course, if you get some rain, we're going to have some gusty winds at times. We've already had that in spots of Jamaica, and then tonight and tomorrow, Cayman Islands, winds will increase. I mentioned some of the winds around 50 miles per hour. And then this area really starts to strengthen. Once we get past tomorrow and it lifts to the north, that's when the winds will be a bigger factor in this as we get into Wednesday. So you see the gusty winds that are coming into the Cayman Islands could clip by extreme northeastern sections of Mexico and western Cuba. Western Cuba, tropical storm conditions, just like the Cayman Islands. As we work our way into Wednesday, you see the red showing up. Those would be winds near hurricane force, some gusts. These are gusts to 70 miles per hour or 110 kilometers an hour. Then you see the yellow showing up, gusts to about 90 miles per hour, 145 kilometers an hour. And then you see some of the greens getting in there too. Those would be at least some gusts to 125. Sustained winds could be around 110 or higher. And then this will start to move in. It is going to be a close call. Does it hook into Tampa? Possible. Big Bend, Panhandle, all in the realm of possibility at this point. And then even though it decreases in winds, still tropical storm conditions moving into south and central Georgia on Friday, and then the remnants lifting up into the Carolinas. European model now showing that similar scenario, and you can see the rain here. It's come in line with the American model and the other models, the Icon model as well. The front back to the west. Now here is John. John looks more like a hurricane now. The National Hurricane Center has it as a tropical storm, but it looks more like a hurricane. There could be upwards of 200, 300 millimeters of rain. There could be over 20 inches of rain as that moves onshore in extreme southern Mexico. So giving you that heads up right there. Not so much Guatemala. The heaviest weather would be off toward the west. Then we get back here once again. Here's the front. This is the area which will become Helene. This is tomorrow. Tropical storm conditions moving into, or will be around, of course, tonight into tomorrow in the Cayman Islands, and then starting to clip by parts of western Cuba. There's John. Once John moves in, it is going to quickly fall apart. Different set of names, by the way, in this in the Eastern Pacific. But there we go. Becoming a hurricane here on Wednesday. This would be Hurricane Helene. The European model has it as a strong tropical storm transitioning into a hurricane, strengthening into a hurricane. Here's the front that is going to grab it. If the front's slow, it'll just continue to move to the north. As the front progresses, though, it could kind of grab it and swing it back into Florida. So this is Wednesday. Then as we get into Thursday, here's Thursday. European model has this going up once again toward the Big Bend and Panhandle of Florida. Big feeder bands working in those. The tornado risk for the peninsula of Florida, tornado risk for western Cuba, Cayman Islands and Jamaica. The heaviest weather's all well to the north at this point, well to the north, although there'll still be some enhanced rain in some spots. And then by late Thursday, this moves in. So there's not a lot of time to take those preparations all across the Gulf side of Florida. And then this will lift in, and it may actually start to kind of pinwheel back. There's another area of low pressure over here, and sometimes they rotate around each other. That's why Carolinas, it'll start to come in, and then it may kind of work its way actually back toward Tennessee and Kentucky with the remnants of that, and then we'll just be watching out for some trailing rain along this. So the European model has this moving in toward the Panhandle or Big Bend as a hurricane, and in the short term, just strengthening as we work our way through the Cayman Islands. The American model, generally the same thing, a little bit more to the east, and that's the trend I've been noting. Things have been more to the east. We need to see where this center is going to develop. You can see everything in line, Canadian, give or take, generally the same thing, but it won't take much to push this into the west coast of Florida. So it's still a wait and see on that. And here's the icon in German model showing that. Now, as far as the rain goes, we have been on the edge of it. I think we were talking about this, 5 days ago together in Jamaica, where some of us may get 25 millimeters or an inch of rain, and then some of us getting off the charts with these colors could get 150 millimeters or 6 inches of rain. Please use caution, my friends in Jamaica, throughout the day. Let me know your location, what you're getting or not getting, because it's been a broken line of some rain. Please do so, of course, safely. We want us all safe across Jamaica with some of the rain. Then we swing back toward the Cayman Islands, and I mentioned this about 3 days ago that there's no doubt we're going to get a lot of rain, especially tonight into tomorrow. And these colorings off my chart, which would easily be over 200, 250 millimeters of rain, could be up to 300 millimeters of rain, which would be a foot of rain. And that's why I mentioned flooding is imminent, especially over toward Grand Cayman, but all of us, all 3 islands, with the heavy potential of rain and some of the gusty winds on top of it. Not hurricane force, but tropical storm force winds will be moving in. Now, big difference, Merida back through Cancun. Cancun, it's going to be a close call with the rain. We're going to get some gustier winds, and we may get scraped by some of the higher totals. Cozumel as well, but more so Cancun as this kind of lifts up toward western Cuba. But Merida over toward Campeche, not a lot. And I mentioned Belize yesterday and Honduras. Heaviest stuff will stay over in the Caribbean. Not to say we're not going to get any rain, but the core of it is away. But it is still enhanced in through here. Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, watching Guatemala and El Salvador. And you see these colors showing up. This here is with John moving in. It should strengthen into a hurricane. Already looks like a hurricane. Should strengthen into a hurricane. Mudslides, a high potential right in here. Here's Guatemala. So just to the west of Guatemala in Mexico, especially along the coast, watching out for some incredible amounts of rain, over 300 millimeters, or it could be up to 20, 25 inches of rain as tropical storm, which will become Hurricane John, moves in. Now, that's a name on the eastern Pacific side. The Atlantic side, Gulf, Atlantic, and Caribbean have a separate set of names. That's why the next name on the list is Helene, then Isaac, Joyce, Kirk, Leslie, Milton, and Nadine as we go down the road. So there is John. This is what will become Helene. There is a pocket of some unsettled weather here. So Barbados through Trinidad and Tobago may get some scattered showers and storms around. Here's John. Latest winds were around 65 miles per hour. I do believe they're more, looking at some of the imagery at least recently, and that will roll in. Obviously, it's going to hit the terrain and then weaken quickly, but the rain, the big issue, life-threatening rain there. So I did want to highlight that. So there's John right there. You can pick a spot on the map where you are. Here's Guatemala, here's Belize, Cayman Islands, Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Now this is today. Rain still around Jamaica, then really starting to work into the Cayman Islands. John moves inland right there. And then tomorrow, Helene developing. So tropical storm conditions right over the Cayman Islands. Some heavier bands still possible for Jamaica tomorrow. And then as we go from Tuesday into Wednesday, it's going to kind of split right through here, Mexico into Cuba. Tropical storm conditions possible. Western end of Cuba, eastern end, not a lot. Still some rain bands could start to work in Jamaica, Cayman Islands, even on Wednesday as this develops into a hurricane and lifts up toward Florida. These rain bands, while they're not for everyone, we're going to get some big amounts. So even getting a rain band on Wednesday or even on Thursday, that could just add to some of the flooding, right? It just adds on to that. And then still watching some rain here at Panama, and then some rain over toward Mexico, and then scattered showers and storms. I mentioned unsettled as we get to the eastern Caribbean, and then we'll be watching what's out here. So here we are, Dominica, Barbados, St. Lucia, Anguilla, and then watching this strong tropical wave coming off. I am hopeful it is north enough that eventually it'll start to curve away. Let me take out in time with this because there are many areas to track. It's the peak of the hurricane season. This should become a named system, but the early indications are that would move away. There are some signs a couple more tropical waves may try to develop back behind it. So we've got a long way to go, but we'll take it storm by storm together. I know this is a high anxiety video. I'm trying to help lower anxiety by just getting out the facts. There's a lot going on. I wish I had better news overall. Of course, the seas are going to be very high, just cranking up 5-6 meters easily. You can see feet on this side of your screen, upwards of about 20 feet. Everything's simply going to build as we get into the Western Caribbean today, tomorrow, and then into the Eastern Gulf of Mexico. Very, very dangerous waters as this develops into a hurricane and then lifts up toward Florida as we get into Thursday. This here is Thursday. Even some choppier seas as well with that system there as we work our way into into the northern Bahamas, but all of this staying away from the Bahamas at this time. If it takes a turn or anything weird, I will let you know. Now we get up here, nothing doing, nothing tropical in nature, but watching a lot of activity out here, and I'll keep an eye on those systems coming off of Africa to see if they do a curve toward the Atlantic region of Canada or Bermuda. Not seeing that, but this here is Wednesday, and there we go on Wednesday, watching what will become Hurricane Helene. So the rain chance very high today across parts of Jamaica, and we are looking at the possibility of flooding. I'll be going through the comments with you throughout the day, but even tomorrow as the rain chance goes down, still the bands of rain that could lead to additional flooding. Cayman Islands, all eyes on the Cayman Islands. Tropical storm developing overhead. Tropical storm conditions really as a whole for the next 2 days. I know you may not have a lot right now, but we're going to get a lot more tonight and then again for tomorrow. So thinking of you, Trinidad and Tobago, I mentioned those scattered areas of rain and storms. Next 3 days, a chance of that. Same thing, Barbados, isolated today, 40% chance tomorrow. Isolated today in St. Lucia, up to a 50% chance on Wednesday. 30 to 40% chance of some scattered showers next 2 days in Grenada. 50% chance though tomorrow and Wednesday. St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Rain chance isolated today and tomorrow across Martinique, picking up some on Wednesday. We do that again in Dominica. Hit or miss shower or storm. 30 to 40% chance the next 2 days in Guadeloupe, and a 40% chance of some passing showers Antigua and Barbuda. 30 to 40% chance St. Kitts and Nevis and Montserrat. 20 to 30% chance Anguilla and St. Bart's. 20% chance the next couple days St. Martin, Saba, and Statia, and a 50% chance. Watching out for some thunderstorms as we work our way into Puerto Rico. 20 to 30% chance U.S. and British Virgin Islands. Bahamas, I'll keep an eye on later this week to see how this system develops. If it just slides right through the peninsula of Florida, I could bring us some heavier weather in our northern sections. 30 to 40% chance Turks and Caicos, isolated shower storm in the Dominican Republic. Haiti, the best chance of rain will be south side the next 2 days by Jacmel. Rain chance 40 to 50% in Belize. I mentioned heaviest weather stays off to the east. We get over toward Aruba, we're mainly dry. Curacao and Bonaire, mainly dry, 20% chance of rain tomorrow. And on Wednesday, 20 to 30% chance in Guyana, and about a 20% chance the next 3 days in Suriname. Now, Cuba totally split, obviously. Western end looking at some tropical storm conditions that will work in tomorrow and on Wednesday. I was showing you that with the models. Eastern end, not a whole lot. Watching out for some areas of flooding. Costa Rica, Panama, rain chance 40% in Nicaragua, 40 to 50% chance across Honduras. In that elevated rain chance, Guatemala and El Salvador, but what will be Hurricane John stays off to the west. Mexico City, rain chance 30 to 40% the next couple of days. 40 to 50% chance in the Yucatan, but I mentioned near Cancun, that's where we may get briefly clipped by tropical storm conditions as this lifts up into the Gulf of Mexico. Northern Colombia, 40 to 50% chance. 30% chance in northern Venezuela, and staying unsettled with a few showers possible as we work our way back through Bermuda. So the Caribbean flooding in some spots. That's why I've been highlighting the comments. Definitely put your location so we could all get a good handle on what's going on and where Hurricane Helene will develop into the Gulf of Mexico and then start to work into Florida, especially by the time we get into Thursday. That new tropical wave off the coast of Africa. Watching that should be developed, and watching that tropical system, which is John, moving into extreme southern sections of Mexico. I know it's not impacting many, but I do this video for safety, and that's why I was talking about John, because those rain amounts will be very, very, very high with that. So thinking of you as we watch all of this evolve. I'll watch everything behind the scenes. Today I'm really going to be watching to see where the center of what will become Helene will form, and then that will tell me what's going to happen down the road. So everything I'm seeing, I will do my best to keep you informed. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your trust. Have a good rest of your day.